I've always believed that evil wears a mask. Sometimes it's a snarling face in a dark alley, and sometimes it's a smile you trust with your whole heart. In the summer of 2005, I learned that lesson the hard way, staring into the abyss of a case that shook me to my core. My name's Alex Carter, a detective with the Philadelphia PD, and this is the story of a 7-year-old boy named Henry Tran, a kid who didn't deserve the hell that came for him, and the woman who orchestrated it all, his stepmother, Mandy Kong. It started on a humid afternoon, August 25th, 2005, in the quiet suburb of Chestnut Hill, just northwest of Philly. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows over tree-lined streets where kids rode bikes and neighbors waved from porches. At 5:45 p.m., that peace shattered. I got the call while nursing a coffee at my desk. Reports of a brutal attack near the gates of Willow Grove Apartments. A child was down, bleeding out. I bolted from the station, sirens screaming, my gut twisting with every mile. When I arrived, the scene was chaos, pure gut-wrenching chaos. A crowd had gathered, shouting, crying, some trying to help, others just frozen in shock. In the center of it all lay Henry Tran, a tiny figure crumpled on the pavement, his small body soaked in blood. His grandmother, Ellen Tran, knelt beside him, her frail hands trembling as she pressed a torn shirt against his wounds, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. 2 men in black, hoods up, faces masked, had descended like vultures. One pinned Ellen down while the other slashed at Henry with a knife, precise and merciless. Witnesses said the attackers fled in a flash, tossing their weapons and disappearing into a waiting car near Chestnut Hill High, a few blocks away. I crouched beside Henry as paramedics swarmed in. His right arm was a mess, mangled flesh, severed nerves, blood pooling beneath him. He was conscious, barely, his wide eyes locked on me, pleading for something I couldn't give. "Stay with me, kid." I whispered, my voice cracking. They whisked him to Jefferson Hospital, lights flashing, while I stayed behind, scanning the crowd, the blood-stained concrete, the panicked faces. This wasn't random. This was personal. And I swore right then I'd find the bastards who did it. The news hit Philadelphia like a thunderclap. A 7-year-old boy, fresh from his after-school program at the North Philly Community Center, hacked up in broad daylight. People were terrified, furious. Even the mayor, John Street, went on TV that night, his voice tight with anger, calling it a barbaric crime that stains our city. He demanded answers, and the pressure landed square on my shoulders. I didn't sleep that night. I kept seeing Henry's face, those innocent eyes, and I wondered what kind of monster targets a child. The investigation kicked off fast. My partner, Detective Saren Gwynn, and I started with the basics. Timeline, witnesses, evidence. The attack happened at 5:45 p.m., right as Henry and Ellen reached their apartment gate. The precision was chilling. The perps knew exactly when and where to strike. Someone had fed them that intel. But who and why? We dug into Henry's life. He was a bright kid, a little rambunctious, loved dinosaurs and basketball. He lived with his grandmother in a modest 2-bedroom unit at Willow Grove. His dad, Victor Tran, was a small-time manager at a sushi joint downtown, Janky's Sushi in Center City. Victor had divorced Henry's mom when the boy was 1. She was barely 19, couldn't handle motherhood, and vanished from the picture. Ellen stepped in, raising Henry like her own. They were tight, the kind of bond that makes you ache to see it broken. Then, a year ago, Victor remarried. Enter Mandy Kong, a 21-year-old with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. They had a baby boy soon after, but twist, that kid ended up with Ellen too. Mandy stayed with her parents in South Philly, leaving Victor's family fragmented, a puzzle with pieces that didn't fit. The first lead came from Ellen. Shaken but resolute, she told us about an earlier incident, 6 weeks back, July 8th. She and Henry had left the apartment at 7:35 a.m., heading to a summer tutoring class. 2 men trailed them, faces hidden under caps. One lunged, kicking Henry hard in the back. Ellen screamed for help, and they bolted. She'd reported it, but the precinct brushed it off as a minor scuffle. Henry wasn't seriously hurt. Now, Staring at her grandson's blood on her hand, she whispered, "I should have pushed harder." I felt that guilt hit me too. We'd failed them once already. That first attack wasn't fluke. It was a rehearsal. The August assault was too clean, too calculated. These guys weren't amateurs. They were hired muscle. But hired by who? Sarah and I hauled in every witness from the scene. A security guard saw the perp stitch a knife near the high school. CSI recovered it, blood still fresh. A bystander caught a glimpse of the getaway car, a beat-up gray sedan, peeling out toward Germantown Avenue. We had fragments, but no picture. I needed more. We turned to the Tran family, peeling back layers of dysfunction. Victor was our first stop, a wiry guy with a nervous tic, chain smoking outside his sushi spot. He swore he had no enemies, no debts big enough to warrant this. I play some football bets, he admitted, but nothing heavy. I pressed him about Henry, about Mandy. His eyes darted away. Mandy's complicated. She doesn't like Henry much, but she wouldn't. He stopped, like he didn't believe his own words. Complicated didn't cover it. Mandy Kong was a storm wrapped in silence. When we brought her in, she sat across from me in the interrogation room, arms crossed, her face a blank slate. Henry was fighting for his life. Doctors weren't sure he'd keep his arm, and here she was, cool as ice. "I don't know anything," she said, her voice flat. "I wasn't even there." But she was lying. I could smell it. She dodged questions about her whereabouts, her tone clipped, her eyes avoiding mine. Something was off, and it gnawed at me. Then Ellen dropped a bombshell. Mandy said things, she told me, her voice trembling. She'd get mad, ran about Henry, called him stupid, said she'd find someone to teach him a lesson. I thought it was just talk. My blood ran cold. Teach him a lesson? Henry was 7, a kid who tapped his little brother's head when he got rowdy. Was that enough to spark this? We subpoenaed Mandy's phone records. She'd wiped her call log clean before the attack. Suspicious as hell. Our techs worked overtime, pulling deleted data. What they found lit the fuse. 195 calls between Mandy and a guy named Kyle Zung, a lowlife thug with a rap sheet, assault, extortion, you name it. Most were outgoing from her, 123 in all, spanning July to August. Then, after the attack, silence. No more calls. That wasn't coincidence. It was a cover-up. Kyle Zung became our prime suspect. He was a ghost in Philly's underbelly. Ran with a crew out of Kensington. The kind of guy who'd break your legs for $100. His phone records tied him to another player, Johnny Lau, a wiry punk with a temper. They'd been thick as thieves, calls lighting up their lines daily. Too frequent for buddies, more like partners in crime. We tracked the sedan next. A traffic cam on Germantown Avenue caught it speeding away post-attack. Plates were fake, but sharp-eyed cabbie ID'd the driver, Derek Wu, a part-time wheelman with a gambling habit. We leaned on him hard. "I just drove," he stammered, sweat beading on his forehead. "Didn't know they'd hurt a kid." He gave us a drop-off point, Fairmount Park, there in a public restroom. CSI found bloody clothes stuffed in a trash can. One shirt had a tear, and Johnny Lau's face flashed on a nearby security feed. Mid-change, caught red-handed. By August 31st, we had them cornered. Kyle and Johnny had skipped town, holed up in Camden across the Delaware River. I coordinated with Jersey cops. Busted Kyle at a dive bar in West Camden, Johnny in a ratty apartment off Haddon Avenue. They were kids themselves, barely 16, but their eyes were hard, hollow. Johnny cracked first. Kyle set it up, he spat. Said it was a job, rough up the boy. Then it got worse. Worse meant that second attack, the one that nearly killed Henry. The third perp, a classmate named Tim Chun, rolled over too. He'd held Ellen back for a measly grand. And the puppet master? Mandy Kong. Johnny pointed the finger, and the pieces slammed together. She'd paid Kyle $5,500 for the July beating, a warning shot. When that didn't sate her, she upped the ante. $36,000 to cripple Henry's arm, to ruin him. She'd even staged a family sushi outing. Snapped a photo of Henry, and handed it to Kyle for target practice. Cold, calculated, evil. Mandy's story unraveled in interrogation. Born in 1984, she'd grown up in Scranton, an only child, spoiled rotten. She wasn't a scholar, dropped out of community college, bounced between jobs. In 2002, she landed at Genki's Sushi, where Victor swept her off her feet. She fell hard, blind as baggage, divorced, a kid, a gambling streak. They married in 2004 after she got pregnant, but the fairy tale soured fast. She caught an STD, blamed Victor. He gaslit her, said she was the problem. Her ex, Kyle, lingered in the background. Her first love, now her weapon. Henry was her breaking point. Victor doted on him, refused to cut ties, even after promising Mandy he'd send the boy to his mom. She seethed, watching Ellen juggle both Henry and her own son, convinced her baby was neglected. Henry's playful taps on his brother's head? To her, it was bullying, proof he was the enemy. Depression crept in, then rage. She called Kyle in June, spilling her venom. He, fresh off a breakup, fed her darkness. "I'll handle it," he said, and she wrote the check. When we confronted her, she didn't flinch. "He ruined my life," she said, voice steady. Victor picked him over me. No tears, no remorse, just a void where a heart should have been. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to ask how a child's life meant so little. But I just stared, seeing the abyss stare back. The trial was a circus. Media swarmed. Philly demanded blood. Mandy's mom begged for leniency, citing postpartum depression. Psyche Val said otherwise. No mental illness, just resentment and malice. The judge didn't buy her sob story. "You planned this," he thundered. "A child suffered because of your jealousy." She got 18 years, knocked down to 12 for pleading guilty. Kyle pulled 18 years, 8 months. Johnny, 15. Tim, 9. Derek and a middleman took lighter hits. Henry survived, but his arms erect, scarred, weak. He's resilient, though, still close with his little brother. Mandy walked free in 2013, divorced Victor, started over with a new guy and a new kid. Victor faded into obscurity. Me? I carry this case like a weight, a reminder of the masks people wear. Evil doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in the voice of someone you trust. Henry taught me that, and I'll never forget it.